Mike Renner, we are back in studio. How does it feel, man? We're back from the weekend. It was kind of a rough weekend. I gotta admit. I wish we did not drink as much as we did on Saturday.
I was fine. I don't know about you.
I kind of hated myself the next day.
I felt great, but it was weird that you called me off the top Mike Renner because just my full name. I don't feel like you've ever said that.
I don't really ever say your full name. That's actually pretty fair there. But we want to open this podcast really looking at the 2020 and the 2021 quarterback classes because they're popping off right now. Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson of BYU. I mean, Jarrett Dagey, if we want to get interesting.
Nope. We don't
But then even in 2020, Joe Burrow continues to look better every single week. I had the sports editor at the Cincinnati Enquirer text me, said, Joe Burrow season. This guy is stoked on it. The city of Cincinnati is stoked on Joe Burrow. Let's start there. What have you seen from Joe Burrow through week 4? How much has he progressed, and where is he excelling, and where does he still need to improve?
I think his deep ball is still erratic. Like he still had some misses down the football field that were uncharacteristic if you saw him play last year at LSU. Like he didn't miss a lot of deep balls. His accuracy was absurd. So I think that's the biggest thing. But the rest of his accuracy, I think we had that stat or whatever, the grade last week saying he was one of the 3 highest graded quarterbacks in the NFL on throws under 20 yards. He has been very just accurate and making good decisions with the football. And this was finally the first time where you saw the situation be good. Like the first time where it wasn't just, hey, Joe, you don't have a running game. You don't have any pass protection. Win it every single play with your arm. This is the first time where it's like, oh, Joe Mixon goes for over 100 yards. Oh, he's not under pressure every single time. He has to drop back and hold the ball for more than 2.5 seconds. He was only under pressure, I think, 13 dropbacks in this game. So I think it was the first time where you saw what he could do when things were good around him. And, oh, by the way, he goes, for over 300 yards, touchdown, the pick, not his fault whatsoever.
That was an insane pick. How did Drew Sample get robbed
just gave it
by
away.
Myles Jack?
Yeah. I mean, he had 2 touchdown passes in the first half that one gets called back for a holding. One gets, turns into an interception because Drew Sample can't hold on to the ball. Those were pretty rough. I mean, the stats probably don't match as well as he played because of that.
I mean, you look at so far through this year, he's only completed 1 pass of his 23 attempts targeting 20-plus yards downfield. Inaccurate, like you said, uncharacteristic of his game, but he still ranks inside the top 3 in PFF grade, throwing 19 or fewer yards downfield. And you see that at the intermediate level. I put in my notes here, a surgeon at the intermediate level, throwing over linebackers, finding in between that hole between safeties and linebackers. I think he's throwing people open in that area of the field, handling zone, handling man coverage really well as well. What is your opinion of his play under pressure? Because I feel like it has been a bit of a roller coaster at times. The pitches earlier in the season that were kind of rough, but also I think there's times where he thinks he can bail out of certain pressures, but still getting sacked by better athletes. However, there's also those plays like you saw against Philadelphia that I think ended up getting called back, where he's making some spectacular play out of structure and pushing the ball downfield. I'd say it's been up and down, but maybe more positives than negatives.
Yeah, I think he's learning quickly that he's not going to out-athlete like NFL guys most of the time.
Yeah.
Like he's going to have to protect himself. And he still even had a play outside the pocket where he took a shot unnecessarily, throwing the ball away because he held on to it just a tick too long. He's going to have to realize that, his O-line's not going to protect him. He's got to protect himself at some point. So that obviously still remains to be seen. I don't think he's been by any means, though, like what you don't want to see a guy under pressure is like being erratic with the football, making bad decisions with the football in terms of just throwing ball up for grabs. Have not seen that with him. And I just want to highlight, before the season, I said top 10 graded quarterback right now, checks in at number 9.
Oh, buddy.
At number 9.
He could be there. I mean, I don't think that's crazy.
He is there. 4 weeks, he is there.
He could finish there. Justin Herbert, let's talk him as well. I think he, kind of opposite to Joe Burrow, has been kind of spectacular throwing the deep ball. Yeah. He's had a lot of really nice big-time throws down the football field, 2 of which coming in this game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They were leading this game 21-3. I think early in the contest, they obviously ended up losing, but through 2 weeks now, he has a 69.0 PFF passing grade. I put in this game, he had that missed screen that looked insane. Like he just sailed it way over his head or something.
I think he intentionally saw like JPP and throwing.
I wasn't sure what happened.
Yeah.
And then the pick at the end was kind of ugly.
That was bad.
And then I put in here some other missed throws at the intermediate level, some just kind of accuracy stuff. But I'd say the 2 best throws of the game were the 2 deep throws. And then he also had a really nice comeback to Keenan Allen as well that I thought was nice. And there was another pass I highlighted. Play action under pressure, is able to get enough arm torque on there and put it in. So I think Justin Herbert has, exceeded expectations through two starts now, or 2 games.
Yes, this one was easily his most impressive performance, in my opinion. What I've been 2 things I've been really impressed with Herbert right off the rip here that I didn't foresee coming. One was his willingness to take shots down the football field. That's the one thing we said at Oregon where Yes, it was like a horizontal passing offense. Yes, it didn't run a lot of vertical concepts. But when they did, he was still like hesitant to push the ball down the field. I think you've seen, especially this past week against the Tampa Bay Bucks, willingness to give his guys opportunities to make plays. The one touchdown was not necessarily open along the sideline, just a go ball. Gave him, put it on his guy, let him make a play, and it's ended up in a touchdown. That's something you just have to do at the NFL level, because not every time, it's not going to be like back at Alabama or back in college where guys are just running wild open down the football field. You're going to have to hit guys who are not necessarily open and give them chances. So seeing him do that in this offense, huge for a rookie. Not a lot of rookies are willing to do that. And the second thing is he's protecting himself really well in terms of, that's not a good offensive line he's playing behind. They didn't have Brian Bulaga this past week. They were getting dominated up front, but he would still get to his check down quickly. If he saw pressure, he was still getting the ball out of his hands. I think sacked only twice in that game, and not really throwing it up for grabs. He had a couple up for grab throws under pressure that weren't great, but I think on the whole, making good decisions when he knew that nothing was going to be there down the field, or he wasn't going to have the time to get there down the football field. So really impressed with those things. And the one throw that I really loved was the play action. It was like a free rusher, sidesteps him once and then just lets it rip right off on like a crossing route. It was late in the second quarter. So I do think Herbert exceeded expectations a bunch. We'll see, how he develops over the course of the season. But I think right now, you got to be happy if you're a Chargers fan.
100%. All right, let's jump to the potential 2021 NFL quarterback class. Right now, the 4 highest graded quarterbacks in college football are Trevor Lawrence at number 1, Zach Wilson of BYU, babyface Zach Wilson. That guy has the most babyface I've ever seen from a BYU quarterback.
Because he's the first one.
Yeah, you expect him to be like 30, but he's actually a very young kid. I think graduated high school, 2017?
2018, so he's a true junior.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So then you have Mac Jones there at number 3, and then Spencer Rattler of Oklahoma there at 4. What has been your opinion? Who's been the most impressive of the potential 2021 quarterbacks, and who maybe has fallen under expectations?
Yeah, I think there's kind of, obviously Trevor Lawrence is the most impressive.
Yeah.
That one's like a given. But kind of just put him aside because he's in his own tier now.
Let's put him aside.
How I tier the quarterbacks now is kind of, you have Trevor Lawrence just on his own, where you're just like, you get Trevor Lawrence, you're fine. You're good. You're like, that's who you want. Then you kind of got Justin Fields and Trey Lance in this, all the tools. Maybe they're not necessarily doing the exact same things you would do in the NFL or going to do in the NFL. There's some things that remain to be seen about how they'll translate, but I think you're still going to take that chance on them at the top of the draft because of how talented they are, and because of how much that makes your life easier at the NFL level when you can do all the things that they can do. And Trey Lance, not a great game by any means in this showcase. He was not accurate with the football.
I don't know why he played in that
passer,
game.
Yeah, it was silly, but I mean the rushing ability, the arm strength, it's all still there. Like he was breaking tackles left and right. So I do think that it didn't help him by any means, but I don't think that's pushing him out of the top 5, top 10. I think he's pretty much locked in there. So I think that's like the 2 tiers now. And then after that, there's this tier of, there's 2 different tiers. One's this tier of guys who play really good football but don't have great tools. And I think that would be the Mac Jones, Sam Ehlinger, Brock Purdy sort of tier. Those guys who they've played excellent quarterbacking at the college level. They don't have great arms. They're not particularly athletic. Maybe Ehlinger and Purdy are a little mobile, but not rushing offense through you type of mobile. So those guys are in that tier where they have to be pretty much like Joe Burrow, lights out, to get any sort of top billing. I haven't seen, like, Mac Jones is graded out well. I haven't seen him be anywhere close to what like Joe Burrow was from an action perspective, and his arm strength is really, really borderline. Like you saw him throw a 45-yarder post, and it took a while to get there and was stopping.
He also, Waddle had to slow up for another one on that one too.
Like he's slowed up his receivers a good deal so far already this season. So that's that tier. And then I think there's this tier of guys in Zach Wilson, the BYU QB, Kyle Trask, Florida quarterback, and I'd even maybe throw Kenny Pickett in there, the Pittsburgh QB, to where they have the arm strength, they have the tools. It's just we really haven't seen enough of high level play from any of those guys to really feel comfortable. I'd say, or in my opinion, feel comfortable taking them highly. But that's why they played this season. And I think throughout this season, for what I saw from Zach Wilson this past week was absurd against LA Tech. Just not missing any throws, arm strength on the move, electric. That was some of the best quarterbacking I've seen all season. So those guys I think can play their way up draft boards with more of the same of what we've seen early on.
I want to throw 3 more names at you. Sam Ehlinger.
If one of them's Jarrett Doege, we're going to fight.
Shane Buechele. And it was going to be Jarrett Doege, but maybe I'll pivot. But no, what's your opinion of the 2 Texas quarterbacks, Ehlinger and Buechele?
Man, Ehlinger is doesn't have great arm. And he has kind of a long release. And he doesn't have great pocket presence, and that's just like not a good combination. Even though he's
that sounds pretty awful.
It's kind of just like he just seems limited.
Unlimited.
And when you get limited at the NFL already, when you've already kind of your ceiling's already lower, you're just not gonna. Teams aren't gonna draft that highly. Mm-hmm. Like I said, like the Joe Burrow thing, it took everyone a while to get on board because you had to prove that you were so much more accurate than everyone else and so much more, better at the small things about the quarterback position. And I don't necessarily see that from Ehlinger, even though he is playing some pretty good football right now and grading out really well. I still just think that the tools are not near what the top guys in this class bring to the table.
All right, let's turn our attention back to the NFL, look at the top 5 rookies in week 4. But before we do that, let's take a quick break. Washington football team running back Antonio Gibson tops this list, Mike.
Yes.
Antonio Gibson looked awesome against the Baltimore Ravens. And you know who else did? I don't want to pivot the conversation too much, but Dwayne Haskins actually didn't look as bad as expected going against the Baltimore Ravens. Threw for 300 yards in this game. I think he earned a 70.0 plus PFF passing grade. Wasn't as abysmal as maybe the -13, -14 bettors for the Baltimore Ravens thought he would. I thought both Gibson and Haskins looked good, but Gibson topping your list for the top 5 rookies in week 4.
Yeah, they split him out wide a bunch
in
this game. Threw to him, 4 catches, 82 yards, broke 2 tackles. And then he just shrugs off guys. He's so big. And I think was the underrated part of his game when translating to the NFL was that, yes, he is this freak athlete, but he's also, he's bigger than Jonathan Taylor coming out. He's 227 pounds. The guy, if you're a safety coming up who's 200 pounds, you're not going to go high at him. You got to go low. And try to chop him down, and that's kind of his bread and butter is just shredding arm tackle. So, yeah, Antonio Gibson looks like, I said it before, he could have been the best running back in this draft, but we only saw him touch the ball 70 whatever times all of college. That's how good he was on those snaps. And he looks the part right now.
And he didn't really get a ton of opportunities at the Senior Bowl either. You didn't get a chance. And Senior Bowl is not a good opportunity to showcase running back talent. Yeah, but you'd had. It sucks that you weren't able to see it. And at the combine, he runs with the wide receivers, and it kind of gets overlooked while the other running backs go.
And it's just sad that he's on Washington because they have awful offensive line. It's not going to be a great situation for him to produce. But I do think that, if he is in a good situation, it's going to look very, very good at some point in his career, whenever that may be, hopefully soon.
When he puts his foot in the ground, too, and squares up to the line of scrimmage, like you said, those guys coming downhill just aren't. They're bouncing off of him. He's shedding tackles very easily. Number 2 on this list, you have Justin Jefferson, who, again, put up numbers in this offense.
Dude, back-to-back 100-yard games. I still am how is he not starting early in the year? I don't feasibly know what it could be. He's night and day better than Olabisi Johnson. Olabisi Johnson was no vertical threat whatsoever. Jefferson's speed is playing in that offense is what they missed with Stephon Diggs those first few weeks was just the explosive aspect that he brought to the table. Jefferson has that in terms of his downfield route running ability. You see it. And then again, 4 catches for 103 yards. Again, the big plays.
The ball skills keep showing up too.
In
contested catch situations, this guy looks incredible. And then he's running a ton of routes versus off coverage, but using very creative route runner to create separation on those deep crossers and stuff. He has, I think, the most or tied for the most receptions of 15 plus air yards so far this year. And he hasn't created a ton of separation in one-on-one concepts. He hasn't seen a lot of one-on-one coverages, but even in those one-on-one situations, he's coming down with the ball more often than not with that contested catch ability. We highlighted it a ton in the pre-draft process. His ball skills are up there with the best in the class. You combine that with scheming him free releases and having him run crossers deep down the field, you're going to get a very productive receiver, and you've seen that with Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings targeting him a ton over the past 2 weeks. Another receiver that's getting, I think, more and more play as the Jacksonville Jaguars move forward, it's Laviska Shenault Jr. They're scheming him targets, trying to get him the ball in space, trying to run him on shallow crossers and stuff like that. And I think you're seeing it with his force miss tackleability and what he can do when he turns upfield.
And he's so perfect for Minshew too, because Minshew, he can put it on you underneath, give you room to run. And that's Laviska. If he just gets the ball at the head of steam on a cross or on anything, he's dragging you. Like it seemed like every single time first guy was, if he was going to bring you down, if he was bringing down Laviska, the first guy, he was going to drag you for 5 or 6 yards in this game against the Bengals. 2 broken tackles, 5 catches, 86 yards, and broke one more on a carry for 5 yards. He just, as advertised in terms of his after the catch ability. Now, is he a complete receiver? Still, not even close. Like he had some routes down the field that he ran. I think he drew like a PI that was, and it's still not ideal. He's still a little stiff in his routes, but hopefully that'll come in time. But even if it doesn't, I still think you have a legitimate offensive weapon that's complementary to sort of what they have there in DJ Chark already.
Number 4 on this list, Yetur Gross-Matos, the former Penn State edge defender, now playing for the Carolina Panthers, beat up DJ Humphries a couple times. One with a really nice outside move for the strip sack, and then another time beat him up a second time for another pressure. In this game, easily his best game of his career. One of the best games we've seen from a Carolina Panthers player in a while. Brian Burns has been like their best defensive player through the first 4 weeks, but Yetur Gross-Matos showed up here. And I'd also say he's not number 5 on your top 5 rookies list, but I wanted to mention him as an honorable mention in this game. Derek Brown. Derek Brown has graded well over the past 2 weeks. And in this game, if you're going to grade well as an interior defensive lineman, you're going to do it against the Arizona Cardinals interior offensive line because they are abysmal. Mason Cole and company are really struggling there, and he owned them every step of the way. Still not a force as a pass rusher. You don't see like wins at the line of scrimmage from Derek Brown, but he dominates the line of scrimmage, controls the man in front of him. But Gross-Matos makes 4. Derek Brown, just an honorable mention. What did you see from Gross-Matos?
Yeah, and the interesting thing was, so he was winning off the edge, and then he also had a few nice reps against guards. They kicked him inside. And this edge class has kind of been as advertised in terms of there's only 2 guys with pass rushing grades on the season over 65 on the edge. And one's Chase Young. The other one now is Yetur Gross-Matos. And he's been only kind of a part-time player, only 35 pass rushing snaps on the season, but to flash something is early on in your career on the edge for a guy who was billed as a project. That's why he falls to the second round. Is nice to see because they have a lot of youth now on that Panthers defense, and to see Gross-Matos and Derek Brown start to come along that's big because the guys in the secondary aren't as much for the Panthers, but they're going to need this rookie class that they just invested so much in on that side of the ball to sort of carry them back to playoff contention.
I still have no idea why the Carolina Panthers did what they did with Teddy Bridgewater, Robbie Anderson, and company, because Teddy Bridgewater is not going to give you the number 1 overall pick. Like this, they're not going to be in contention for a quarter. Like, Trevor Lawrence may not even be able to land Justin Fields or Trey Lance. And for that reason, you're building up this young defense. You're kind of in a semi-rebuild, but you're doing it with Teddy Bridgewater as your starting quarterback for at least, the next 1 or 2 seasons. Do you think they can be, if the defense develops, they get better defensively, add some more pieces on offense, they can be a contender with Teddy B, Teddy Two Gloves?
I just don't think he's that. Yeah. He's that level
so
of quarterback.
Why'd they do it then? That's what
I know.
Confused.
Like, yeah. And the whole Cam Newton situation also was weird to me, and whatever.
That was also very weird.
That they ran him out of town when it seemed like it was just injuries. Like there wasn't anything else in terms of, maybe there was behind the scenes that we didn't hear about, but it seemed like injuries were the reason for his declined play over the past 2 years and not necessarily anything else. So I don't know about that, but again, Teddy is that tier of quarterback where you don't want to be in the NFL. The Andy Dalton, the Ryan Tannehill.
Fun to watch. He's been great for them, but he's not going to win a Super Bowl. And for that reason, you're going to be picking in that 10 to 18 range for the next 2 years that you're starting.
And it's like, and if you have a quarterback in that tier, it better be on the rookie contract. Yes. You don't want to be paying them $20 million a year to be in that tier.
It's a very interesting step in roster development. So I will say Robbie Anderson. And
I said this before the season, the Panthers aren't going to be as bad as everyone kept saying. Like, they're probably going to be 7-9, 8-8. Yes. That's also not where you want to be in the NFL again.
No, you don't want to be there. I have to say this, though. Robbie Anderson, I'm a big fan of Robbie Anderson. Everyone at PFF knows that. He has been awesome. He is playing that Justin Jefferson role in Joe Brady's offense. Well, they're scheming him open. He's running way more in the slot than he ever has. He was almost exclusively an outside receiver with the Jets. Now they're moving him all around the line of scrimmage and finding him open way more often than not. He's ranked 4th in yards per route run right now. And honestly, I don't know if you have seen the video of him standing in the locker room while the entire team is singing Sweet Caroline. It is honestly the funniest thing in the world.
What's going on.
He has no idea of that song, and it's just like so pure in the moment that he's like, everyone's happy. I don't know what's going on. Oh man, it's pretty good. All right, number 5 on the top 5 rookies here is Tristan Wirfs, who held Joey Bosa to his lowest single game pass rushing grade since 2018 is what it was?
I don't know the number on that.
Early, it's either late 2018 or early 2019. And I thought in this game, you turn on the tape and you see a couple times Joey Bosa getting into him. However, when you think about, if you look at the whole building of work here, Tristan Wirfs holds his own and going against arguably one of the best, if not the best edge defender in the NFL right now in Joey Bosa. I was really impressed with how he didn't just get absolutely manhandled by Joey Bosa. Only allowed 3 pressures in this one, a 77.6 pass blocking grade against Bosa.
Yeah, they're really making it tough. Wirfs, obviously Becton had the shoulder injury and they're boning him there in New York, whatever. And Wills played very well this past week as well. It's tough to decide which one's been the best. These guys have been
Andrew Thomas is
all
not
very, very good. Yeah, that one's easy to decide.
Andrew Thomas right now ranks last in pressure percentage allowed among all tackles. And he looks, again, lungy this
so
past
inconsistent.
week.
It's just his timing is just all off.
His feet don't even look anywhere near the same as that they did at Georgia. I feel like he's out of sync.
Yeah, it does seem like he's definitely trying to change his pass sets.
Yeah, I feel that.
And it has not gone well.
I can't wait to get to our blackout segment, by the way, because the guy on that one has had a tough go for the NFL season. He has had such a tough go. All right, that's it for the top 5 rolling rooks here. Let's get to after close. That's where we look at some of these second-year prospects, or not second-year prospects, second-year NFL players that are performing well of late. This past week, I have Garrett Bradbury, number 1 to talk about here. He looks good. Looked very good against Houston Texans. He's walling off guys on outside zone, and when he does get to the second level, had a handful of chop blocks on Zach Cunningham, getting in front of people. He's not a people mover. He never will be, but he gets in front of people, uses his feet well, and I thought this was honestly the best game of his career, specifically as a run blocker. He also didn't get brutalized as in pass protection either.
Texans, maybe the worst defensive tackles in the NFL.
Also. Fair.
And Ross Black, I can't even see the field. That's a scary thing for them, is that he barely.
But their linebackers are good. And he was getting up there on linebackers and making plays. That's
his game, his space. Is that he is very athletic, and it's not his game is working a 335-pound nose tackle one-on-one.
Yeah.
It's just not been his game over the course of his career. And that's when I worry about him in matchups like that. This was one I would hope that he would have won. So good to see him win it.
Number 2, I have Terry McLaurin, who continues to smash.
I love some Terry McLaurin.
Who doesn't love Terry McLaurin? He had that nice route on the outside, diving catch. That was probably the best play of the day. He also had another really nice route that he ended up catching. I think he just faked the outside, came back in. I think the Baltimore Ravens really struggled to find an answer for him because they were trying to feed him the ball consistently. And unlike last year, Terry McLaurin did not have a lot of yards after catch last year. It was not production that he had. But now this year, they're scheming him targets way closer to the line of scrimmage, letting him use that speed with the ball in his hands, and it's working. Quick slants, routes behind the line of scrimmage. I think Terry McLaurin is looking very good in year 2, continues to show that he's one of the better receivers in that class last year.
Yeah, he already broke more tackles this year than he did all his rookie season.
And that comes from opportunity, man. It comes from
where you're catching
being
the ball.
By the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, catching the ball, kind of what I said with Laviska Shenault, it's with space to work and not, if you're catching a go ball, you're not going to break a tackle usually. If you're catching a jump ball, it's just not going to be, it's not an opportunity. So, yeah, he just was woefully underdrafted. They're just, and was in a difficult situation to show how talented he was also. That's how we talk about role mattering at wide receiver. He was in a role that was just, he was not going to put up numbers. And the funny thing is, Dwayne Haskins and his inability to target McLaurin hurt McLaurin's draft stock. McLaurin should be pissed at Haskins. Yeah. He's really dogging him and still dogging him sometimes now with some of the overthrows.
Next on this list, Jamel Dean earned the highest single game grade of his second season in the NFL, 75.5 grade against the Chargers, 2 defensive stops, only allowed 1 reception for 3 yards in this game. I love, and we've said this 1,000 times, I love what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did to invest in that secondary, to continue to throw pieces and give them go or give them snaps is awesome. And now he's a starter for this team at outside cornerback, and he's proven to be one of the better young corners in the NFL. A guy that was built like a linebacker coming out of Auburn, but with legitimate speed, 6'1", 206. I think he's in a really good position to be a good starter in the NFL.
Yeah, and another guy that I think we can just say with a good amount of certainty, he was woefully undrafted. Just did not recognize the talent that was actually there. And another guy, because of a lot of the fact that he did look like a linebacker, I think he did cut a lot of weight going from Auburn to the NFL or even just to the combine, because he looked like he was about 220 pounds there playing at Auburn and just sitting up at the line of scrimmage and press coverage playing like we've said, some college coverages will not translate to the NFL. You're playing techniques that you cannot play at the NFL level because of, one, the athletes you're facing, and two, the lack of legal contact penalties. And that was Dean. He was doing that at Auburn. And so that's why the NFL didn't recognize that he's probably one of the best cornerbacks in that class. Falls all the way to the third round and doesn't have the pass breakups this year, but he's not losing either. He only allowed 95 yards all season long through 4 games, 132 coverage snaps. If you're under 1 yard per coverage snap allowed, you're doing pretty damn well in the NFL nowadays.
I looked at this stat recently. 3 of the 4 worst cornerbacks in the NFL, guys that have allowed the most yards through week 4, are rookies. Jeff Gladney, Noah Igbinoghene, and Trevon Diggs are all up there, man. They've given up a ton of yards.
Man, Noah.
It's been so tough. Noah Igbinoghene has also made a handful of boneheaded plays. All right, I'm going to finish this after close segment, Mike.
They're just throwing them to the wolves.
They are. They absolutely are.
Man up DK and Tyler Lockett again this week. Just like, Jesus.
Finishing this segment with the 3 highest graded offensive players in their second years in the NFL and 3 highest graded defense players. Terry McLaurin at 1. David Edwards, guard for Los Angeles Rams, number 2 among second-year players on offense, and Kyler Murray there at number 3. Defensively, Jeffrey Simmons has had a really good start to the season, obviously on a bye this past week, and I think he might have COVID. However, Dexter Lawrence there at number 2, he's put on some really good tape. And then number 3...
Wait, can we go back? How do you think he might have COVID? Did he test positive?
I think he tested positive. Okay. I don't remember. There was a shitload of Titans players that tested positive. I think he was one of them. Sorry. I'm pretty sure he's on the COVID.
He texted me maybe.
I think he's on the COVID list. Dexter Lawrence there at number 2 on defense, and Brian Burns ranks 3rd among second-year defensive players in PFF grade.
Burns is interesting because Burns is like, what's like a comp for? He feasts. Has been anytime he goes up against a shitty right tackle, like unathletic guy this past week against Arizona, who was the right tackle he was facing, I can't remember, but just went to town. But his splits against right and left tackles are enormous. Over the course of his career, it's something like a 60 pass rushing grade against left tackles and like a 80.82 grade against right tackles. Like, he does not beat athletic tackles. When you go up against good tackles, like I've said, guys who don't have that power, strength, the threat of the bull rush, if a guy can match your athleticism, they're going to shut him down, and they have. But when he goes up against, lesser tackles on the right side, guys who are usually, and the NFL still putting their, more unathletic tackles on that side, pretty much across the board in the NFL, he's been able to beat them. So I do think that if I'm the Panthers, I have to recognize that, and they've still switched them sides to some degree. I just keep him over right tackle all day long and let him go to work.
Let him play him where he's at his best.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump to the blackout segment here. We're going to highlight some bad rookie and prospect performances, starting with, buddy, Joshua Kelly did not look good. Everyone's rushing to the waiver wire this week, too, because Austin Eckler has a hamstring injury that could cost him, honestly, the season. Some people think this could be a 4 to 6 month recovery. Our injury analyst, Mario Pilato, is not super high on him coming back anytime soon. But Joshua Kelly, 9 carries for 7 yards and a fumble. This did not look good in this game. Yeah,
and that's the second straight week now with a fumble, which not a lot of things you can do at running back to get in the doghouse. Fumbling will get you off the field. You will not play if you're fumbling in the NFL for most offense coordinators. So that's like a welcome to the NFL. Here's all your snaps behind this terrible Chargers offensive line, but also like makes you appreciate how actually good Austin Eckler is.
Yes.
The fact that he can produce behind whatever they're throwing out there and not have it as an excuse. I do think Austin Eckler, probably one of the most underrated running backs in the NFL. They will miss him dearly if he's out for some time.
And right now, Joshua Kelly, due to the injury to Austin Eckler, actually leads this team in carries with 52, but he's only averaging 3.3 yards per carry and only has 7 forced missed tackles.
I didn't see the Kelly hype at all coming. I don't know why he was 4th rounder. He was kind of fast. He was kind of big and fast, but he was not dynamic.
You know who they need to get carries? If Joshua Kelly's not the answer, Joe Reed, my guy out of Virginia, the guy who's like that scat wide receiver type. I think that would be fun coming out of the backfield.
He was more dynamic than Kelly, by far, in my opinion.
All right, the other rookie that we want to highlight, an honorable mention here, not a full blackout, but I'd honestly say this has been tough for Lloyd Cushenberry.
He's been on a bender.
Center for the Denver Broncos, the former LSU center, Lloyd Cushenberry. Not only did he give up 4 pressures in this game, but I thought in the run game, whether it was Quinn Williams, Henry Anderson, or any Jets defensive tackle going against him, just manhandled him. Like, he looked, here's my notes here, a step slow and weak every single time. Like, if you're slow and you're not, like, you're getting bullied, it was kind of rough to see.
And he just like, he doesn't recognize stunts at all. He's missed so many of that whole interior offensive line.
The game is like lightning speed to him right now.
7.4 pass blocking grade in this one. Over the last 3 games, he's allowed 14 pressures. And
That's not
Vita
common
Vea,
for a center.
Vita Vea, I'll give you. Pittsburgh and Tyson Alualu's playing like an all-pro. I'll give you. But the Jets aren't throwing out elite talent at the defense tackle position. I guess Quinn Williams could be this year. We'll see. But you shouldn't be losing. You shouldn't be having a 7.4 pass blocking grade against what he was going up against.
All right, we're actually getting a blackout segment for Trey Lance as well. I mean, this was not. It wasn't a blackout. It wasn't Lloyd Cushenberry levels, but it's his only game this year.
Yeah.
And completed less than 50% of his passes are right on the nose there for 149 yards, something along those lines. It's not what you wanted to see against Central Arkansas in this game.
Yes, and threw a pick. So now you can't say never thrown a pick in his entire college career.
I was so excited for that.
That would have been. I mean, we would have heard it again.
And it wasn't
again,
a great.
again.
It was not like a batted ball or anything. It was not a great throw.
Yeah, it just wasn't a great throw. 57.7 passing grade. Obviously, the running was there. He's a man amongst boys at the FCS level as a runner, and I think will even look the part in the NFL. Like that will be a legitimate threat that he brings to the table. But man, missed some easy throws. Was not a clean performance by any means. And it's a talented quarterback class. There's a lot of guys, and I don't see how you can draft him above someone like Justin Fields. I don't see if Zach Wilson and Kyle Trask, if they light up college football the way they have early on this season and continue that and don't really have any blips on their radar, I don't see how you can take Lance above either of those guys. Even if he has better tools, those guys will have played elite football in the FBS. Obviously, Wilson's competition not great for BYU this year, but Trask will be in the SEC. So that one gonna hurt for Trey Lance. It's fortunate.
The other blackout segment member here is TJ Carter, the Memphis cornerback, who went up against a freight train in Reggie Robertson, who currently leads all of college football in yards per run. But he did go down with an injury in the end of this game. Did you see that non-contact knee injury? Got carted off.
I wonder what happened to him because that looked bad the way he went down.
He was dominating in this game, though. He could do whatever he wanted against TJ Carter and company. Like, he was really looking good in this game. But then TJ Carter gives up 3 receptions for 131 yards, including a touchdown. Just was outmatched by Reggie Robertson in this game.
Yeah, and he looked slow. Maybe still hampering. I don't know. What did he have? An ankle injury at the end of last year, the end of the season. TJ Carter. He got beat off the line by Robertson and was losing ground as he ran down the football field, gave up well over 100 yards. That's not going to be good for your draft stock, especially at Memphis. You're not going to face a ton of quality wide receivers, and the one you do face goes for over 2 bills is concerning.
That is not good, my friends. That's not good. All right, let's jump to our Raise a Glass segment here where we look at some top prospect performances from the weekend. You're going to start with Khalil Herbert, the running back for Virginia Tech. He's kind of a interesting build for him. He broke off a couple big runs in this one. He's really top heavy. I thought it was definitely difficult for guys to bring him down on first contact. Looked good in this game. I thought he had that really good breakaway speed on some of the runs, but he was getting hawked a handful of times as well. He looked good in this one though.
Yeah, he reminded me of like Zach Moss, where he's short, stout as can be, and then like really good balance.
He's built like a cinder block in this game.
And I don't know how. So he just transferred from Kansas, grad transfer from Kansas. I don't know how he couldn't see the field at Kansas. Like he only had like 100.
Puka.
Yeah, I guess Puka is pretty dope, so I can't hate on that. But transferred from Kansas, and he looked pretty legit in this game. Like he was very difficult to bring down. Now it's Duke's defense, not world beaters by any means, but elusiveness is elusiveness, and he looked pretty darn good. So maybe one of those guys, like he's not going to be an early rounder, but I think one of those guys that I would love to have on day 3.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you've seen what the Bills have done with guys that just force missed tackles at a high rate, with Devin Singletary and Zach Moss there for Buffalo. The other guy, we just mentioned him, but Reggie Roberson, we're going to raise a glass to him, maybe to his season. It did not look good. That knee injury looked pretty tough. I tried to look before we jumped on the podcast to see if there was any news. I think they're expecting him to miss significant time. But before he went down with the injury, I thought he looked good after the catch, separating on a vertical route tree, good in contested catch situations. Is he the better SMU receiver that's come out there over James Prochet and even others over recent years? Yeah,
I think he's much better athlete than Prochet and bigger, like better size. Prochet was
Sutton's probably the best of the group over the past 3 or 4 years.
I think Sutton's quite easily in the NFL. Obviously, has been very good and was just the prototypical size speed athlete, sort of like had a ridiculous 3-cone also. Like he had those tools. I don't think Robertson's quite there, but I think he's a 4.4 guy and solidly built. There was kind of a static-ish route tree that he was winning on. He just go balls in this one, like 5 catches, but almost 50 yards a catch. was pretty nasty, but the injury is the thing there. I think he's probably could have played his way into a day 2 guy, but if the injury is serious, I'm not sure he goes off the board till day 3 then.
Yeah, going to be tough for him. All right, the other guy is, honestly, I think college football is everybody's favorite player right now. Kadarius Toney, the wide receiver from Florida, who is just breaking tackles at a rate that's similar to Antonio Gibson. I mean, he's not touching the football a ton, but when he does, it's a highlight reel every single time.
He reminds me of just like watching Dante Hall.
Percy.
Dante Hall back in the day, where it's just whichever way direction he moves in, it just is quick as shit. Like it just looks different. The speed he's playing at, and in that nasty play that everyone probably saw already, where he broke 4 tackles. They're all conversion on him at once. He just runs through all of them. But the route he ran on that was
he
crazy. Like it was a 1-on-1, and he just, gave him a little head fake outside, and the guy was gone. So I'm more excited to see more of that. Like we know he's nasty after the catch. He has 30 broken tackles on 61 career catches. We know he can do that. That's going to be insane. Like I'm willing to take him highly based off of that alone, because that sort of dynamism is rare, but more routes like that, and we can start to talk about creeping up into the first round.
All right, let's jump to the defense side of the ball here and look at Richie Grant, the safety for UCF. You liked him going into this year too. You're a big fan of Richie Grant.
He's one of my favorite deep safeties. Made a great play from middle of the field safety in this one, where he just saw where the routes were developing and where the ball was going to go, and he made a pick, came over the top on a kind of a slot fade go ball all the way to the sideline, made a pick, had 4 stops in this game. I'm a fan of his game, and I was a senior. He had a big year back in 2018 when he had 6 picks, already has 2 picks now this season. Like I said, I picked UCF to go to the playoff. Texas made me look dumb with my pick for them to go to the playoff. I think Richie Grant's starting to could make me look smart here.
91.7 PFF grade against Tulsa. He had 10 combined tackles and 0 missed tackles, along with those 4 stops you spoke to. That's an impressive line for safety. Yeah. When you're getting that much play from a tackle perspective and not missing tackles, that is huge to see. All right, Kevon Bennett, the edge defender for Tennessee, number 95. I thought he showed some explosiveness in this game. He was jumping off the edge. He had that really nice win against the guard, and then even had another win on the edge as well in this one. I thought Bennett, I like to see juice along the edge. I think this edge class has been tough, man. The best guys aren't playing. Yeah, we haven't seen the best guys. They're
on the Penn
State, Jason Owe, Gregory Rousseau, but this guy, you like to see the juice off the edge.
Yes, and so he was a part-time rusher last year, 25 pressures on 160 pass rushes, and through 2 weeks now, 8 pressures already as in a starting role. A tad undersized, 6'2", 245, but that's not bad. Like he can get up to a good weight. He's a redshirt junior. I liked what I saw. And if you're pass rushing against guys in the SEC, most times like the tackles you're facing are usually, you're not facing just awful slap tackles that can't block anyone. So I do think that his performance is pretty impressive here against Missouri.
All right, last guy here, Tyson Campbell, who I think is a former 5-star and has a very big pedigree playing for Georgia right now. And the first thing I look at when you're scouting Georgia corners, how much are they bullying kids down the field? Because that's what DeAndre Baker did. That's what Eric Stokes Jr. does. Tyson Campbell, though, I think has the tools to not have to lean on that. DeAndre Baker didn't have speed. Tyson Campbell has length and speed, and he went up against Seth Williams, the big boy out of Auburn this past week, only held him to 3 receptions for 34 yards. Got, I think, a couple of those receptions, he got beat at the catch point, but still, the best play is late in that game, go ball to Seth Williams, and he's sticking with him stride for stride and gets a hand on that ball. And you don't see corners make those plays all the time, especially against a guy like Seth Williams, who's just a big monster at the wide receiver position.
That's the thing. He was just in Williams' hip pocket the whole game. Like, yes, he gave a few catches, missed a tackle, but the fact
DPI too, I think he had a DPI.
Yeah, and the fact that he just was always there, though, at the catch point, pretty much universally in this game is what's more predictive going forward. And I think this is the type of like 6'2", 185. He's a long corner and going up against bigger wide receivers, shutting him down at the college level. And it wasn't getting super physical with him. He would just, it didn't, he wasn't taking super advantage of the lack of legal contact penalty. And Seth Williams is a physical wide receiver in his own right, and he plays a physical game with his routes. So for Campbell to be with him pretty much from start to finish in that game, this dude's playing his way up draft boards this season. Just needs to stay healthy.
What's your opinion of Seth Williams? I think some people really like his game. Some people, I think don't love that he's not like a separator, but you can get on board with him being this like big contested catch guy. What's your opinion of Seth Williams?
I still am not a huge fan. Yeah. I still don't see.
Those aren't your types, though. Your type is not the big guy that comes down with these highlight reel catches every once in a while, like Brian Edwards, the Raiders receiver.
I would just rather lean away from guys like that and miss on the ones, the Mike Williamses of the world, who do turn out good in that mold. Just because I think on the whole, you're
better off finding guys that can separate.
Yeah, exactly.
Can beat Tyson Campbell and like what Kadarius Toney did to that corner in the slot. All right, before we jump to the fake ID segment, I kind of wanted to throw this out there. I looked at some notable names that are currently ranked top 20 on either the offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball in PFF grade. Just throw some names out there. No surprises for Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones, Liam Eichenberg, the offensive tackle for Notre Dame, grading well so far this year. We already mentioned Zach Wilson, the two Kyles in Florida, Kyle Pitts and Trask. On the defensive side of the ball, two guys that we liked heading into this year, Ali McNeil, the NC State defensive tackle, and then Asante Samuel Jr., who was playing, I think, cover 3 and passed his man off on a crosser and then saw the route developing over the top and made a really nice interception this past week. I don't know who Florida State played. I don't remember who it was, but it was a really nice pick.
I'm off Florida State, so I don't know either.
You're off Florida State. Oh, man. Two appearances on Old Takes or Cold Takes. What the hell is that fucking thing?
Old Takes Exposed.
Old Takes Exposed. That is funny. All right, let's finish with the fake ID segment.
The Florida offense, though, man. Kyle Pitts and Kadarius Toney.
Dude, Kyle Pitts.
Incredible. And then they have that running back who looks exactly like Le'Veon Bell, the way he runs.
I haven't watched the running back at all. I've been watching the throws.
That's going to be a fun offense to watch this year. That's going to be like LSU. Maybe not. I mean, they're not going to be like LSU, but that's the type of talent we're working with here.
You think they go to the playoffs?
I don't know.
Come on, Mike. Stick your neck out there.
No, I think Texas and UCF do.
Get out of here. All right, fake ID segment to finish the podcast here. It's a name you know and love.
Yes.
Frank Gore Jr., Southern Miss. 10 missed tackles on 24 carries. Actually looked kind of good in this game.
How did this guy not go to the U? What are they doing? I know he was only a 3-star recruit, and I know he's tiny.
Yeah.
He listed at 5'8", 165. I've never seen a guy 165 pounds run harder than he does, though. He was running over guys.
It's surprising no one, by the way.
Yeah,
If Frank Gore's son ran like a soft, bad
was a finesse back.
It would have been not okay.
Yeah, but no, 165 pounds and is just chugging through linebackers in this game. But he looked awesome. And he's faster than his dad already. Also, it's hard to be slower. So.
I mean, come on, Frank Gore Jr. 10 forced tackles on 24 carries. If you're not watching Southern Miss football, what are you doing?
I know.
What are you doing? You watch that game start to finish, I'm sure. But definitely Frank Gore Jr., the fake ID for this week. That's going to do it for the 2-4 Drafts podcast. Remember, rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. And on the Thursday edition or the Wednesday edition of the podcast, if you rate and review the podcast, leave a 5-star review with the name of a rookie, draft prospect, fake ID potential member there. If you leave his name in the comments, we'll bring him up on the Thursday pod. We can't get to every name on the Monday podcast. We try and touch on as many rookies and prospects as possible, but we can't get to everyone. If you mention it in a 5-star review, we'll get to them on Wednesday. Outside of that, that's going to do it. Austin Gayle, Mike Renner, 2-4 Drafts.
You want to get rid of me and get back to more great PFF YouTube content? All you have to do is push that button right there and subscribe. Thanks for watching.